Hey everyone, I'm Christine Gritman here with Social, my weekly show where I invite a smart friend on to discuss a particular topic on social media, small business, all that great stuff. And today I have here from the UK, John Espirian, who is a LinkedIn expert. Hey John, how you doing?
Hi there, Christine. I'm very well, and thank you for having me on this live show.
Thank you for being on. I'm doing themes this month. This year for social, I'm doing monthly themes. And I decided that February is LinkedIn month. So I'm very excited to have wonderful people in my network, such as yourself, who really are dedicated LinkedIn experts. You know how to do all sorts of other stuff. But tell us a little bit about what you do generally, John.
Well, my bread and butter business is being a technical copywriter. So I take people's websites that no one can understand and I write content that helps people understand how it all works. So that's what I do for a living. I write content that explains stuff. But a few years ago, I decided to go narrow and deep on LinkedIn because I thought this is the best place for me to find B2B clients. And I didn't know the platform that well. I knew that it had just been bought and that it was changing, and it wasn't the place to store. And that's around when it was
bought by Microsoft, right?
Yeah, so that was end of 2016. And I thought, let me go deep on this thing and really learn how this thing works, because maybe I can find my ideal clients there. But as I was learning about it, I was sharing what I was learning as I went along, because my skill is explaining how stuff works. And I found that kind of content got really, really popular. People wanted to know how this platform works. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And it means now that I'm kind of known for being this helpful guy on LinkedIn, as well as my copywriting. And so because of that, I'm helping people with their LinkedIn profiles. I'm helping them with their just their general brand presence and so forth.
And it's such an important thing, too, because previously, you've probably been on LinkedIn for a while, as have I, and it used to be kind of a static place where you just park your resume. And it has become a far more dynamic platform than that, and that makes people's branding messages, to your point of being a copywriter, that much more important to clarify so that your profile can work harder for you as still. It's less of a passive platform. You do need to use it more actively now, but the fact is it can work so much harder for you by just being this presence there and being able to tell people who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a dry, arid business networking site anymore. It is now a fully fledged social media network. It has live video. It has direct chat with voice messages. It's got reactions. It is, in some ways, what Facebook was a few years ago before it got probably overcrowded with so many people and so much content. So the organic reach potential on LinkedIn is huge, and it's got a lot of the features that you find on other social media platforms. And the people who are here are apt to do business. So it's a fantastic place to be.
That's fantastic. And that's so true. That's really the difference between LinkedIn and someplace like Facebook. It has become a lot more human and a lot more personable, but it is still not the home for your cat videos unless you are a professional cat video maker, right?
Well, that's true. But as I said, the organic reach potential on LinkedIn is so great that if you could just turn up and be human and be social, then your content will get a lot of visibility, much more than it will on Facebook. Whereas you need to place ads if you want to get proper reach on Facebook these days. That's just not true on LinkedIn. And the good news is that LinkedIn's whole business model is different from Facebook's in that they make their money by selling things like premium memberships and Sales Navigator and their paid products. They don't make their money so much from boosted content. And that means that that organic content has got, I think, quite a long future on LinkedIn. So all the more reason to get started now if you haven't already.
Absolutely. Totally different algorithmic priorities there. So let's talk about how to take advantage of the LinkedIn algorithm to show you to the people who you want to be shown to. And we'll take it bit by bit. I want to start kind of by going through a strong profile, really kind of top to bottom, because that's really an incredible way to make sure that you have this digital presence that's going to be working for you even when you're not actively engaging with someone. So let's talk first of all about what people should be finding on your LinkedIn profile, and what's a LinkedIn profile that's going to show up really well in search results and that is really going to do a lot of work for you. What are some things that people really need to keep in mind?
Okay, so the initial two no-brainers are to have a well-taken professional headshot and a banner image. And that seems so basic that you would think that everyone is on board with that. Unfortunately, not all of them are. When I look at a LinkedIn profile and it has that default blue Starfield banner, that tells me that that user probably isn't that engaged on LinkedIn. So that's immediately a sign that they might be a newbie or don't really care about their profile. So those are things that you really need to get right.
Or the opposite of a newbie. It's possible that, because the banners only came on a year or two ago, right, I think? So people may not have quite gotten the memo. How can they create a banner image, and what are some best practices for putting something there besides the blue background?
The most popular way of creating one is through a free site such as Canva. Personally, I use Photoshop, but the learning curve is a bit harder there, and it's a paid product. But you've got set dimensions. I think there's 1584 by 396, and your profile photo will sit over the top of part of your banner. So what you need to do is make sure that the essential information is in the middle or to the right of the banner, so that the text is not obscured. And also remember that now 60% of LinkedIn sessions happen on mobile. Mm-hmm. And so someone looking at a banner on mobile, it's going to be tiny. And so
it crops very differently also. It kind of pulls stuff off of, I think top and bottom is different on mobile and desktop on that one.
Yes. So my point about that would be that make your visual very clear and keep text to an absolute minimum, unless it doesn't really matter whether it's red. But if you actually want it to be red, it needs to be big and chunky. But so if you get those things right, the next two things that are absolutely essential on your LinkedIn profile are your headline and your about statement. Now, the headline is the single most important piece of text you've got, because along with your name and possibly your profile photo, that is the only piece of data that follows you around in all parts of LinkedIn. Whether you're commenting in a group, on someone else's post, writing an article, that headline will be there always. And you've got 120 characters to make an impact. But again, if we think mobile first, probably only the first 40 of those characters are visible. And so what I've come up with is a three-part way of writing a LinkedIn headline. And I suggest people chunk it into interesting, informative, and intriguing. So I say thank you. I make the first 40 characters something that will be of interest to your ideal business client. So you make it very clear what you're there to do. The middle section, which is 60 characters, would be informative. That means the keywords that support the interest statement.
And speaking of keywords, this is an SEO optimized thing. This is a way that you're going to get found.
It is. Yes, that's correct. The keywords that you put in there will help you get found in LinkedIn search. And there's a little trick that will give you an extra boost in your search results, is that in your skills section, which is further down the profile, so we might get to that a bit later, but you can feature 3 skills on your profile. And if one of the keywords in your skills also matches something that's in your headline, an exact word match, then someone searching for that keyword will have a better chance of finding you in search results.
Nice.
So LinkedIn's search algorithm isn't as clever as Facebook's and other platforms. So spellings and exact matches really matter on LinkedIn. So I had an example recently where someone was using imposter syndrome, and there are 2 different ways of spelling imposter. And because of that, it's worthwhile having both spellings in different parts of the account so that you can be found on both words. So if you've got anything like that in your business, be aware that LinkedIn is a bit stupid and it won't do things like synonyms and different spellings automatically.
That's good to know. So that was the second part of the 3-part formula.
Yeah, so we've done interesting, which is basically what you do, the informative keywords that support that short intro, and then finally intriguing. You've only got 20 characters left, and that is, for me, something a bit different, a bit funny, a bit quirky that could be a conversation starter. And I've got on mine, I've got not a douche canoe, which relates to something that I'm putting in my book, and that starts a lot of conversations with new connections, because they'll say, I found that funny, or what does that mean? And it's an opportunity to get talking to people, and that's the secret of LinkedIn. Is if you can talk to people, you'll have a chance of building an engaged network. And if you can do that, your content will get seen, you'll get referrals. It'll take time to get there, but those conversations that happen in public and in private that is the secret to winning on LinkedIn.
I love that. And this is really important. I want to make sure everyone understands how important this headline is, because you get a headline by default. Your headline by default is your current job title and your current employer. And also, I've noticed a lot of people's headlines say founder, or say owner, or say CEO. So what are some stronger ways? One way that I put it with clients, and I don't know if this is if this is something that you recommend, I'm interested to hear. One way that I phrase the difference to people is I say, it's not your title, it's what you do. What you do is not founding or owning. What I do is I help small business owners not be freaked out by social media. What is yours? What is, besides not a douche canoe, what is your current headline?
I've got on mine relentlessly helpful technical copywriting, and I'm also got LinkedIn nerd, which is true, and author of Content DNA. So all of those things really speak to the high level things that I want people to know about me straight away. And I use relentlessly helpful is kind of a brand hook for me that I came up with a few years ago, and that's been immensely powerful because I'm finding that people echo it back to me. So whenever I do consultations with LinkedIn clients and copywriting clients, I always say that we need to define a brand identity that can resonate enough with another person that they would say it back to you. It's hard to achieve that, and it takes a whole consultation usually to get there. But if you can do that, then you've got a chance of being noticed and remembered and preferred. So it's really important to get that right.
Now, there are some people on LinkedIn who put information that perhaps should be in their headline in their actual name on the platform. What are your feelings on that?
Well, that goes against LinkedIn's own user agreement, so I wouldn't do that because you risk a chance of them just blocking your account. So I don't think that's good practice anyway. Your name is your name. Use your headline for your descriptor stuff, and support it with your content and your about statement. I don't think the name is the place to try and develop further your personal brand.
I like that. And I've seen that a lot of the people who used to have things in their name are now phasing out of that. Now let's talk about emoji. Some people put emoji in their name. Some people put emoji in their headline. What are your feelings on that?
I think emojis in the headline is okay if that's part of your personal brand, if that's the kind of thing that you would do when writing a message, a direct message, a comment, or a post. If you're an emoji fan, it would make sense for them to be in your headline. I personally would not put one into my name field, but if it's a really strong part of your brand, then it's understandable why you might. So I used to have a coffee cup in mine. I didn't think it was a strong enough brand hook to keep there, and so I dropped it. So I'm not too precious about that, but if you're not sure, I would remove it, but I think it's okay in the headline. But remember, headline can only be 120 characters, so you've got to really make every single one work for you.
Absolutely. So now let's move to the About section, which is also known as the summary.
Yes.
One big thing I want to dispel right away is that a lot of times we see the summary section truncated. But I've been advised that you see your own truncated. You often see other people's whole summaries if you go to their profile. Has that been your experience? Does it differ from mobile to desktop?
No, I've usually seen them truncated myself as well, to be honest. You've got 3 lines before the see more link kicks in.
Only 3?
Yeah, it's only 3 lines.
Wow.
And of course, because of the way that desktop and mobile work, that means a different number of characters, absolute number of characters. But it's only 3 lines. So what you need to do really is to make sure that the first 3 lines talk about who you are, who you serve, and how to get in touch. And that's what a lot of people don't do, that last bit, because many people will look at your LinkedIn profile and might think you're interesting and think, right, I want to get in touch with them. But normally that means connecting with them first, which people might not want to do. So if you can put your method of contact, your preferred method of contact, in those first 3 lines, that will help you attract more people to, contacting you via email, booking a 15-minute free consultation call, following you on Twitter, whatever it is that you actually want them to do. It's good to put it in those first 3 lines. And then when you expand, then you can go into a lot more depth. And LinkedIn recently, for reasons that no one knows, they've expanded from 2,000 to 2,600 characters in that about section. So that gives you plenty of room to put all of your contact details at the end. You can put your custom hashtags in if you want. And beyond that, you just need to make your value proposition clear by talking about the kind of the benefits, the transformation that you can cause in someone else's business, and not write walls of text. That's one of my bugbears as a copywriter. It's just a huge block of text, because that's bad enough on desktop, but on mobile it's almost unreadable. You're just scrolling endlessly with this text. So I recommend having just really short paragraphs, a couple of sentences maximum, and then using lists whenever you can. And because you can't do rich text formatting on LinkedIn, and so that means that using things like emojis to add just a little bit of life to the content can be good. It will no doubt put some people off, but maybe they wouldn't have liked you anyway. So I recommend using emojis for bullet lists and things like that.
I like that. So what is your kind of ideal structure for a summary there? You talked about the first 3 lines, and I think that's really key. I especially like the bit about the contact information. I got to go back and change mine, because there is a contact section on most people's LinkedIns, but it's hidden behind those 3 dots. It's on that little 3-dot menu. You have to kind of click something to go to contact info a lot of times, so it's good to be really obvious there.
Yeah.
What else?
I was just going to say, there is a contact info link that should be displayed next to the number of connections or just below your headline, but often people don't look in there. And when I do LinkedIn profile reviews, I often find that content isn't actually filled in very well. So I'll click in there to go, right, what's this person's website? And they've forgotten to put it in there.
Or their email address. I think they think that it's automatic, but it's not. So many people have tried to go email, and I can't email them because it's not in there.
Yeah, that's right. And also with web address, you're not limited by the number of entries you can have in there. So you could put your homepage link in there, but you could also put your mailing list sign-up page with a different descriptor next to it. So just if you think about it like that, there are lots of different calls to action that you can slide in here for free that would help people click away and find out more about you.
That's really smart. So let's talk about what else should go into a summary and sort of ideal order, because I know a lot of people will put sort of a list of skills, a keyword list, a keyword rich little list of skills at the end. Sometimes people will put a little thing about them personally towards the end there. So what's a good structure in terms of taking that journey?
Well, I would always lead with what benefit, what transformation you can bring. I would always go with that. So I with my profile, I state what the problem is for the customer, make it very, very clear. So in my case as a copywriter, the problem I'm fixing for them is that they don't have the time to write it themselves, or they're just too close to their business to understand it enough to be able to write it clearly. So I make that very, very clear. And then talk about what benefits they'll get from that. So, you'll get happier customers, you get more customers, you get fewer support calls. If you make those benefits clear very, very early on, then after that, you might want to then dig into some specific skills. And if you can share, what I really love to see when people are able to share it is something that is tangible about what you've achieved. So if you're that person who's got your company $1 million contract in 3 months, you've got to put those kind of achievements in there. Don't expect people to scroll all the way down to your experience section, which relatively speaking is quite far down, before they start digging into that CV style stuff. If you can put the big hits towards the top, that'll be really, really helpful. And then you can kind of finish off with things like how to get in touch and something a bit more personal. I like to end with some kind of personal statement that will bring a bit of life to the content. If you really want to put your the list that you said, the keyword rich list, do kind of put it towards the end, because that kind of thing can lower the readability. It's not it's not a natural narrative to go through. It's there mostly for SEO rather than actual readability. So I would bury that towards the bottom.
That's smart.
But as I say,
and stir keywords naturally into the text. I mean, ideally,
yes.
The keywords that people are using when looking for you are also in there for you for when you talk about the pain points that you help solve.
Yes, that's right. One thing that really useful thing, when you look at your profile, only you can see it, but there's a panel on your profile that shows you how many people have viewed your profile and how many views your recent post has got, but also how many search appearances you've had in the last week. So if you click on that, then you'll be able to see, if you scroll down the page that follows, you'll be able to see the keywords that people used to find your profile. And that can be really instructive. So if you're being found on irrelevant keywords, it would be useful to go back and look at your profile and see which of those words you can find in there that you might be able to rephrase to something that is more relevant.
And this is available on the free version, right? It's not just a paid one?
Correct. I'm looking at mine right now, in fact. So I've got copywriter and editor as my two top ones, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I would do both of those services. LinkedIn's SEO means that you don't need to go mad with repeating keywords. So back in the old days, the old bad days, people would just stuff in the keyword as many times as they could because they would think, right, well, that'll definitely do it. You don't need to do that. So one mention, maybe two at most, is more than sufficient. LinkedIn will scan the text. It will know what words are in there, and that's good. So you don't need to keep repeating your key phrases all the time.
Though you did also mention the advantage of having an identical keyword in your summary, but also in your header. So is that less a matter of repetition and more a matter of consistency between sections? Does it read those sections differently?
I don't think it reads them differently. I was thinking mostly about the spelling side of things. So if you've got different spellings of words, and also don't expect it to be clever with synonym matching. So if I write copywriter, that might mean content writer as well, but LinkedIn doesn't know that. So if you want to be found on both, you have to state both.
Now, there's the summary, but then there's also your experience section, which is sort of the resume bit.
Yes.
How do you differentiate between the two as opposed to just kind of copying and pasting the exact same information between those two? How do you decide what goes in your summary and what goes in your experience section?
I get a strong feeling that people don't tend to read what's in the experience anywhere near as much as they do in the about, and that's simply because of geographical placement on the page, So whatever's above the fold towards the top of the page will get read most. And if you make that compelling enough, people won't need to scroll through the whole thing before they get the kudos on you. Because also, remember, towards the top of the screen, you've got things like links to your articles. As of today, I've got a brand new feature in LinkedIn, which is you're able to now feature your posts. Which
I saw Julia Bramble posted about that. I don't have that yet.
Yes, so I got that this morning, and it means that you can nominate any post and feature it on your profile in a featured section. So that sits next to your featured articles and other your media items. So that's potentially very useful. Although in typical LinkedIn style, they've made it so that images that look great in a normal post get squashed a little bit in this featured panel. So now there's going to be a new optimized image size that works in both cases. So that's one for us to research and share about.
Does that go right under the header? Does that go between the... So you've got your header, which has your banner and your picture and your headline.
Yep.
Then I believe are these extra features, and then there's the about. Is that correct?
Yeah, you've got the about, and then previously, below the about, you had a section of a grid of up to 6 media items.
I want to talk about that in a minute, too.
Yeah, okay, so that media grid has now turned into a section that's called featured.
Nice.
And it will contain those media items, but any future posts you add in jump to the head of that list. And then you can edit the list to reorder them, which you never could before, which I found quite annoying.
That was very frustrating.
Yes, but now you can.
Great. So you're saying, does the featured section go above the summary or below the summary?
It's directly below the summary.
Okay, so it's your header, then it's your summary, then it's the media items, then it's experience on the typical page.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
And is there still a media section in the summary, or has this replaced it?
the media section has now transformed into featured, so it's a combined thing.
And you can still put media in your individual experience entries as well, right?
Yes, they haven't taken that away.
So let's talk about the media that we feature, because a lot of people, I'm staggered by the number of profiles I see that have no idea that that's an option to include links, to include proof of their work. So let's talk about that and how to use that.
Yeah, well, my very best tip for that is to use PowerPoint or Keynote if you're on a Mac. Ooh. And create PDFs and make a very nice kind of first page for your PDF, and then put your very best blog post, turn it into a PDF and put it here. Your rate cards, put it here. Your sales brochures, put it here. Even your lead magnets that that aren't absolutely business critical, that you have to get an email address for them, put them there too. And if you brand each of the first pages, it'll produce a beautiful looking grid, on brand and instantly accessible. So I think PowerPoint generated or Keynote generated PDFs are a perfect candidate for including in what was the media section.
That is mind-blowing. That is so smart, because I've been using it in the very direct old school way, which is I include a link to something that I did, and I can't choose the image that shows up as a thumbnail for that link, and sometimes an image literally doesn't show up as a thumbnail for that link, and I can't control it. So the idea of downloading your content, as opposed to linking out to it, downloading that piece of content, turning it into a document, and uploading that instead is brilliant. You don't get the click-throughs, but it creates a much nicer impression. I love that.
Yes, it gives a better branded look, and it gives a chance for your content to get some oxygen, because what you really want to do is maximize the amount of native content you can deliver. If you can keep them on the platform and still deliver the value, this is why native video and live video in this case work so well. You're not taking them away from their from what they were doing, and yet you're still serving them with hopefully helpful, relevant, interesting, amusing, whatever content. And if you can put your call to action at the end of that, then a proportion of those people will still convert. So I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do.
That is brilliant. Can you make it clickable?
Yes, if it's a PDF, you can make active links in there. So yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, John. This has been so fascinating.
It's gone quickly.
Yeah, I have some quick questions, though. One of them is, I'm always surprised with all the new features and tweaks that LinkedIn keeps making to features and profiles. I'm always shocked that the recommended, and I don't mean actual recommendations where it's like the paragraph from someone who's actually worked with you. I mean the thing where it's a random skill that someone can just say, yes, I recommend them for this. I worked in the beauty industry over 10 years ago, and I have random people who have never met me and know nothing about me saying, oh, I recommend her for skincare.
Yeah.
What? So what are your thoughts on that section and how to actually make it work for you?
I think what you want to do is focus on the skills that you want to be found for. So think, would someone actually type this into the search box if they were looking for a person like me? Mm-hmm. And if the answer is no, don't put that as one of your top 3 skills.
Because you can control it now. You can drag and drop now. Yes. You can put the skills up there. It used to be pretty random.
Yeah, you can control the display of your skills. Annoyingly, you can't control the display of your recommendations, which are a much more powerful signal to the LinkedIn algorithm. So, firstly, what you want to do is get more people to endorse your skills, because you'll have you'll have a better chance of appearing in search results for searches on those things.
So that section is not useless.
It's not useless, but it is not as powerful as a recommendation, because a recommendation has to be written by a third party and has to have some thought put into it, whereas anyone could come along really and click to say yes, they've got that skill, and really all they're doing is waiting for you to scratch their back in return, which is not something you do really with a recommendation. So a recommendation is much more powerful, and again, I suggest that you try to maximize those, and the way to do it is to work out what your own recommendation URL is, and it's not very hard to work out. So if I were to look at your profile, for example, and then I would go to the More menu and select Recommend, what will happen is that the URL will change. it'll still be the LinkedIn base URL for your profile, but then it'll add a few words at the end. And if I were to copy that URL now and send it to you, you will then have a link that you could send to anyone that you're connected with on LinkedIn, and they can click it and immediately go to the recommend screen. And so that's fantastic for putting into your invoices, email signatures. If you like my work, recommend me on LinkedIn, and it takes them straight to the screen. That's really good. It gets rid of the friction.
That is incredible. So now the endorsements, which are the random keywords, that gets picked up by search, I gather. Do any words in the recommendations get picked up by search, to the best of your knowledge?
Words in recommendations, I'm not sure that they would do. No, that's a little bit far down, and that's free-form stuff, so I don't think it would, personally, but I haven't done a test to see whether it does. So I'm not sure, but I think not.
Okay, well, I'm very curious. Well, this has been incredible. I'm kind of sad that we're ending, but John, tell us about your book, your relentlessly helpful book that you have coming out.
Yes, I've got a book called Content DNA, which is really about defining the shape of your brand and then giving you some tips on how to create good content and reminding you that you need to be consistent with it all if it's ever going to work. So that's based on my 10 years as a copywriter. It's what I say to all of my copywriting clients. So you'll be able to get all that knowledge for £12. And I'm launching that at the Atomicon conference in Newcastle at the end of April 2020.
Yes, April 28th in Newcastle upon Tyne, UK. That's Andrew and Pete's conference. If anyone wants to go to that, I have an affiliate link, you guys. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, John. And where can people find you?
Well, I've got a really unusual surname. So if you search Espirian, you'll find my website and you'll find my LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is really the only social media platform I care about. So if you look me up there, I'll be happy to connect and have a chat.
I love that. And you are findable. You are active on Twitter as well, but it does lead back to your LinkedIn.
Indeed. I love Twitter. It just doesn't get me any business. So I'm all about LinkedIn these days.
Fantastic. I love that. Thank you so much, John. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in Newcastle upon Tyne at the end of April. And again, I am Christine Gritman. I do this show every single week. February is LinkedIn month, so next week I'm going to be here with Judy Fox talking about how to turn conversations and connections and relationships on LinkedIn into actual business. So please tune in for that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye!